So Dom, let's talk about Carl Froch. He's put a video out yesterday. I sent it to you, so I wanted you to be semi-prepped for it before we talked about it. So interesting viewpoints he's brought up, but basically he's reacted to Eddie Hearn doing an interview, basically questioning how Carl would have dealt with this current era by YouTube channels and retired boxers talking about you, critiquing you, etc. And he felt like he's been overly harsh on Anthony Joshua. And the comment stems from Carl Froch basically suggesting a fight between Fabio Wardley and Anthony Joshua. And in Froch's words, he said Joshua would be terrified of being punched by Fabio Wardley. But it's worth highlighting that they both train in the same gym, so that fight ain't gonna ever happen. So
yeah, I watched that interview with Carl. I mean, I've obviously had dealings with Carl way back. To 2000 when he first turned pro with Mick Hennessy, and the one thing you can't fault Carl Froch on is his ability to have a fight, take a shot, and kind of fight to the death. There's no question whatsoever, with him, because he was always there to have a fight. He never bottled it. He never took a backward step. Even when he's on the floor, he climbed off the floor and came back, and you got to give him massive amount of credit for that, and I do. At the end of the day, everybody can give an opinion. He's got his own channel. If he wants to say what he's got to say, that's fine. Eddie says what he's got to say. He's the voice of boxing. Tony Bellew says what he's got to say. Carl Froch says what he's got to say, and I've got what I want to say, and it's people will listen to what they want to listen to, and they'll take little bits from everybody and work out who they think is being honest or who kind of resonates with what they think. And it's not for Eddie to dictate, what the dialogue is or how the story is. And if Carl Froch feels he can say that about Anthony Joshua, then, he can say it. There's nobody can stop him. It's just his opinion. And whether Eddie gets upset about it or Anthony Joshua gets upset about it, so what? It's like Carl's not going to be bothered, is he? It's not particularly harsh. If you look at, I re-watched that fight this morning with Dubois and Anthony Joshua, and to be honest, the dust has settled. You can't believe how bad it looks. It just looks like Anthony Joshua's legs have complete. It looks like his punch resistance has gone. That's what it looks like. And the first shot what put him down, the overhand right, he kind of leans back a little bit, misjudges the distance, don't even move his head out of the way. He goes back in a kind of stiff, and he gets caught right on the end of the overhand right off Dubois, and he's down, and that kind of did him, all the way through the fight. He never recovered from it. His ability to recover then from that point was shocking. I'm surprised it went as many rounds as it did, and Dubois is a big, strong fella. He's had his ups and downs. Look at his performance against Joe Joyce, when everybody was writing him off and calling him a coward and a bottle job. What a turnaround. But, I think we said in a previous interview that, he's only a young fella, he'll come back from it. And he probably did the right thing pulling out with that eye. It could have been a career-ending situation. So when you look where he is now, he's in front of Joe Joyce. He's further in front than him. He's beat Anthony Joshua. So that one setback, he learnt from it. And I think a lot of that is his teaming up with Don Charles. And he's come through strong. Cole might be right now that if Fabio Wardley did box him, that, Fabio Wardley can punch. And it seems now it only takes a decent shot on Anthony Joshua's chin to topple him over. I mean, when has he ever been down 3 times in a fight before?
Could that not just be because Daniel Dubois is known in the industry to be a very, very heavy-handed puncher?
Yeah, he's a heavy-handed puncher, but he didn't drop, Joe Joyce, did he, and whatever. So, like I say, if you're fighting somebody who's a puncher, like Daniel Dubois, well, Anthony Joshua, see, when Anthony Joshua throws his shots, his jabs kind of loop a little bit instead of being straight. And he's he's leaning forward. He always seems to be leaning forward with his chin up in the air instead of like sat back and using it long. And if you're going to go in with a puncher, the one thing you got to look at is, what are the big shots? It looks like with Daniel Dubois, the overhand right, left hook, big shots. Maybe, and then he catches him with the right hand coming in. A bit very similar to the shot that kind of Fabio Wardley caught his opponent with. He kind of dipped out Dubois, and as Joshua came in, but Joshua was leading off an uppercut, which is a silly shot to be throwing. in the first place, leading off with an uppercut. So, like I said with Dubois, yeah, he can punch, but if you're going in with a punch, you've got to have this in mind and think, right, break him down with a jab, keep it long, wear him out a little bit.
Just on that, a quick point on that fight, I watched Ben Davison on TalkSport the other day, and I've got to clarify because he said they're not using this as an excuse, but one of the big factors in that fight was that AJ arrived late at the venue, and they felt in the whole warm-up, the build-up before the ring walk, everything was kind of rushed. I don't know if you've had a similar experience with your fights. Would that make a difference?
Yeah, it does make a difference, but then you have to ask yourself the question is, why did he turn up late? And I'm going to give you an example of why people turn up late, because we've had this has happened several times with fighters I've had. One of the most famous examples was Nazim Hamid against Tom Johnson at London Arena, and Naz rolled up late and everything was rushed. And Naz went, don't worry, I'm going to knock him out anyway. And Tom Johnson were a good kid. And I just remember that fight, and for 3 rounds, the first 3 rounds, Naz absolutely hammered Tom Johnson. I thought, this is not going to go along. Tom Johnson looked like he was all over the place. And then the middle few rounds, he became a bit subdued, Naz. It kind of slowed down. I then think Naz got him around about 8 or 9, I can't remember now, and knocked him out. And, the rest is history. But I remember then we were driving around London a year or 2 later, and we went past some McDonald's. He went, see that place there? I went, yeah. He goes, that's where I were 2 hours before boxing Tom Johnson. He goes, I'd had a right feed, and I thought, I'm going to be late. Oh, yeah. He says, I got to the venue, your dad sort of kicking off. I went, yeah. He says, and I felt great for the first 3 rounds. He goes, then after about round 3, he goes, I could feel it all coming up in my stomach. And I thought, I'm going to be sick. So I had to hold off a few rounds. He goes, and then it kind of settled, and then that's when I got him. And he was blasé about it. So Anthony Joshua turning up late, you've got to ask, why did he turn up late?
He definitely didn't go to McDonald's.
No, probably didn't go to McDonald's. But why, if you're fighting at Wembley, I'll tell you where you're staying. You're staying in the hotel at the side of Wembley, either the Hilton or one of them where you can just get out and walk into it. That's where you're staying. And if you're not staying on the, where the arena is, well, you've got it all wrong, because that's where you should be. You shouldn't be travelling through traffic. I don't know where he stayed, maybe, I don't know, whatever the reasons were. But you've trained all this time, 12, 16 weeks for a massive fight. Why are you going to roll up? You know what time you've got to be there for. You know where the venue is. You know how important the fight is. You're going to be turning up early, not late. Why would you turn up late? There's no reason. There should be no reason on earth why a fighter of that magnitude and that occasion turns up late to a venue. Do you understand? No reason whatsoever. So it does play a part, but then you have to think, where's the mind at? Rolling up, being late. And that example of Naz, his mind, well, I'd rather have McDonald's be nothing this fight, taking it a bit lightly. And Naz probably could have finished that fight early. And maybe with Joshua, then the realisation from the first round, got caught. And then it was from that first round, it just unravelled all the way through.
So the other thing Eddie suggested is that obviously Carl Froch is too critical, and obviously questioned how he would have dealt. How do you think he would, if he was in an era, in fact, even before we talk about that, was this happening 20, 30 years ago where fighters were critiqued? Obviously, because we're in social media world, we can see it, but were people still were you getting wind of a boxer from another gym saying, he's been slagging him off?
No, you got interviews with papers, and you got, where it mattered, you got Boxing News, you got Ring Magazine, you got publications, you got a lot in the tabloids, Sun, Mirror, Daily Star, you got Backpage, Colin Hart, all these writers. They'd always, it was a regular thing, and because there was no social media, we got all the stuff in the papers instead. And then the Times, you get it in the Times if you were a big enough name, and there'd be articles, and it was very interesting because it was always well put together stuff, and it got delivered from every angle. Obviously the tabloids were a bit more clickbait stuff, but and it went out to everybody, and everybody bought them papers. So, now everybody's commentating on boxing and making an opinion, whereas before it was only like a select few respected people what carried a lot of weight. So, looking at that interview, and Cole did make a point saying Anthony Joshua's got that much money, he'll never spend it in his lifetime, which is correct. And he did make a very good point. Why on earth is he still boxing? For all, the numerous times Cole mentioned, great champion, Hall of Famer, I sold out Wembley, and it was great listening to all them points over and over again, promoting himself. But the valid point he made was, really, Anthony Joshua doesn't need to be doing it anymore. He's probably gone past that point where he's ever going to turn it around, turn his critics around. He's probably he is on the slide, it's a fact. And Cole is right saying, well, it is more money for Eddie. Of course it is, it's just a business opportunity. Why wouldn't it be? If somebody's saying to Eddie, you're going to make 10, 15, 20 million off this fighter having a fight, whether he wins or loses, who's going to turn down that money? Nobody's going to turn it down. It's just, people don't turn it down.
How do you think Carl Froch would have dealt with criticism if he was in this era, if there was people, talking about him how he talks about him?
I'll be honest, I don't think he'd be bothered.
Okay.
I don't think he's thick-skinned, he's got Polish descent, and he's, like I say, I've had sparring partners, we call Froch, I've been around him around the boxing. He's a bit thick-skinned, and he always did his fighting in the ring, didn't he? He's quite, verbally competent. And you know what? It's funny because when I used to go down to have people sparring him, we'd be having conversations about stuff and he'd be saying stuff and he'd be, oh, my memory's shocking. Oh, what's his name again? He'd be going through certain fights he had and whatever. But now when you listen to him, he's very coherent. He never stutters. His recall is good, which shows that for all the hard fights he had, and he took plenty of stick, he got banged plenty around the head, that don't really see any signs of damage at his age. I think he's been retired nearly 10 years now, probably.
Probably less than that.
Yeah, but he's doing all right. And like I said, people might not like him, they might not like his attitude, but one thing you can't fault Cole Froch on is his boxing ability. And I don't think what he's saying about Anthony Joshua is wrong. There's a lot of very, very valid points in there. Forget about their name calling and everything else. Is strip it back, take all the emotion out of it, strip it all back. You've got a fighter there, Anthony Joshua, he's got to be worth 50, 60, 70, 100, I don't know, whatever he is, 100 million quid, right? No good if he's not around to spend it. No good if he's blowing bubbles. You understand? Because everybody else is going to benefit off that. He's a young man still. And I don't think, no matter what he does, he'll always be respected in boxing. He'll always be respected, no matter if he finished flat on his face in his last fight. Because at some point, you're going to probably get beat. Look at the mighty Roy Jones. He got knocked out by Enzo Macronelli, who got knocked out by David A. Look at Nazim Ahmed, got beat by Barrera, who got beat by Amir Khan. So it's very rare you're going to finish on top. Mayweather did, Joe Calzaghe did. Has it made that much of a difference, really? Apart from they can walk around and say, I never got beat, that's good. But hopefully Joe Calzaghe's got enough money never have to fight again. Obviously Mayweather has, Joshua has, Cole Froch has. It's a great place to be because not many boxers end up there. So no matter what anybody thinks, when you finish boxing, it's all right looking at all your belts on the mantelpiece, but it's no good looking in your bank balance, it's got zero in it. You'd rather have the money in the bank than the belts on the mantelpiece, but you need the belts to get the money. So get the money, get out while you can, and you've got all your faculties. That's the the rule of the day.
There's one comment he made which is quite a deep comment, to be fair. So he said he's talking from a sincere place when he talks about AJ's future, and Eddie Hearn's talking from a business perspective. Just to put some context into it, I've only ever seen Eddie Hearn cry once in my entire time of knowing him, and that was when AJ lost to Usyk post-fight, and it was genuine tears. He was crying in the press conference. He was quite emotional about the whole aftermath. So do you think there is like a personal relationship there, or as Carl suggests, it's a business thing?
But why would he's a grown man? Why would he be? It's like, you know what I mean? It's like, I've had relationships with boxers. You've got a duty of care, and regardless, and it's like, you still look at that situation and he gets beat by Usyk. It's not as if he's not achieved anything, Anthony Joshua. It's not as if he's not got a load of money. What is there to cry? You could turn and say, well, maybe you were crying because he realised how much money you were going to lose from, the rematch or whatever it was. Maybe that's why he was crying. But if I'm being honest, I don't think Cole is being sincere when he says he's coming from a sincere place when I mean this. But I think he is making a valid point from a boxer's point of view. And don't forget, he's dealt with Eddie. Whether that was good or bad, it always seemed like a successful relationship to me. I don't think I think he's having a dig about AJ, but I think he's being honest when he says that really he should pack up. I think he's being honest from that perspective, saying that in reality, there's more damage to come, and there's no need to do it. I think he's being sincere in that respect, but not like because he likes Anthony Joshua. I think he's saying it because it's the truth.
Okay. The last thing, and this is quite a wide comment, but one of your friends on the infamous YouTube channel, Porky, has suggested that Eddie Hearn owes Carl Froch money for introducing Anthony Joshua to him. I don't know if things like that happen. Could that be a factor? Is that why maybe Eddie's not paid him for the introduction fee, or I don't know. But do things like that happen?
Well, Anthony Joshua was down at the Institute of Sport, trained by Robert McCracken, who also trained Cole Froch. So if Robert McCracken's training Anthony Joshua, and he's also training Cole Froch, who works with Eddie Hearn, why wouldn't it be Robert McCracken who's doing the introduction, because he's the trainer, and he probably at that point he probably said to Anthony Joshua, your best bet is to go with Eddie or go with Frank, because you won't be. I don't think he might have had a conversation with Cole Froch. How did he treat you? What's the business like? Does he pay you on time? You've had all them conversations. But one of the most important conversations you have to have is that, yeah, but how is he with his fighters? Am I going to get looked after? He's going to build me up. He's going to sling me in. How's he going to bring me along? And that's probably better judged by people like Robert McCracken, because Robert McCracken's had a successful relationship with a lot of fighters we had, especially Cole Froch, who stuck with him to the end, like he said. So he would have probably found his way to Eddie regardless, unless, Cole Froch talked him into it and deserved a finder's fee. It's not like he needed to be discovered, is it? He was coming through anyway. He won the Olympics. He's on Eddie's radar already. So I'm not sure, that's the case, that, Eddie owes Cole money for a finder's fee. It's like, that's a bit ridiculous, isn't it? It's different if you've got some unknown kid in a gym, I think, and who was it? Is it a Toomer? Who is it?
Yeah.
Who said they turned around and seen him in a gym sparring or whatever, and somebody found him out. That's probably a different story. He didn't win the Olympics. Probably wasn't an high-profile international. And you get them in gyms. You walk in and you think. I mean, Luca was telling me about a guy the other day who boxed in a box cup, an amateur kid who trains in another gym in Sheffield. He says knocked everybody out. He's doing all these tricks. He looks absolutely a fantastic, amazing fighter. And then he probably got jibbed in the final. And them type of kids, you've got to go around and scout them. You've got to find them in gyms. That's the real skill. And then bringing them from that level, through to the professional ranks and get them to the top. So I don't think there should be a finder's fee. And I would have thought that, Robert McCracken would have been the one who would have introduced him. I might be wrong. There might be a different story in that.
Last question for you. I'll kind of word two into one. Is Carl Froch too harsh, or is he being brutally honest? And also, is there an element of maybe some personal issue, as in, obviously, Carl has said it previously that Rob McCracken is like a father figure to him, and even suggested it in that interview yesterday that he speaks to him on a weekly basis, and I'm assuming AJ doesn't speak to Rob anymore. Do you think that because of that relationship and him moving on to different trainers, and that could be a factor in the way he comes across?
It could be. Everybody's personal feelings come into decision making sometimes, or maybe a lot of times. But sometimes in boxing you have to put that to one side. There could be a lot of negativity around people, but you have to look at it for what the job is. You're training a fighter to get him into the ring and to be taking punches. They're going to look at it from a certain viewpoint where they're taking all the risks. And Anthony Joshua had to do what was the best for him. Cole Froch did what the best for him was, and Rob McCracken did what the best for him was. Whether Cole Froch thought AJ should have treated Robert McCracken a different way, that's his opinion. Again, it's not that there should have been. It's that relationship is for AJ and Robert McCracken to sort out. So it doesn't really matter what Cole thinks about that or his feelings towards it. It's not his relationship, is it? It's theirs. So there might be a bit of a personal thing into it, but like I said, strip all the emotion out of it, and taking all the tit for tat out of it. I think what Cole Froch is saying is quite correct in the sense there is no reason for Anthony Joshua to carry on boxing, because it's now tipping the scale in the favour of getting damage more than being a benefit. Like I said, just looking at that, I had to look at that fight again just to refresh my memory, and it didn't look good. Getting put down 3 times. Yeah, Dubois is a young kid. He can punch, and that's his time. It's his time now. Whereas Joshua's had his time, hasn't he? And you can't remain at the top you know, for all your career, just like when he boxed Klitschko. You know, Klitschko was still a dangerous fighter, but he did start to gas against Fury in the last 3 rounds, and they probably viewed that when Joshua boxed him, and he gassed and he went for the kill type of thing or whatever he did, and Joshua got him, and it brought him through. But in his prime, you know, Joshua would not have lived with Klitschko, not a chance, not a chance. So, you know, that's how it is. Father time catches up with you. He was nearly 40 at the time, Klitschko. Joshua's knocking on there, 33, 34. It's an old age in boxing, and he's had a lot of hard fights. He's been knocked down a few times. He's had some losses. I don't think he's got anything else to prove. And even if he did get a win, you know, I don't think he's going to box Dubois again. But even if he did box Dubois and beat him, he'll get some self-satisfaction out of it. But it still don't unravel the fact that, you know, Dubois flattened him in the first time. It's like it's a 1-1 then, isn't it? Just because he's done it more current, don't really mean out, does it? It's like it's in the balance.
Good stuff. Well, pleasure as always, Dom. I think we kind of covered it from your diplomatic viewpoint. That's it, really. Unless you want to prove to the fans that, you know, you're not fat. But I think we're done.
No, I don't. Like I say, it's me. The very reason I don't read comments is because I don't really need to know what people's opinions are. I've got my own little thing going on, and you know, if people are that interested in what I look like with my shirt off, if I'm in good shape, and all they got to do is look on my Instagram, look at my training sessions, look at me when I've got my shirt off. There's plenty on there to be looking at, and don't forget, watch out for my OnlyFans site where you probably will get me in a pair of Y fronts. And boxer shorts, and maybe I'll get a few quid. I might get about, I think my sign up fee is going to be about 50p for a month.
Is it? Well, again, if contact Dom on Instagram if you want to look like him in your late 50s, mid 50s, should I say. But yeah, that's it really, Dom. Thank you very much for your time, and done.